January 21, 2025. Two homicide detectives from Honolulu, Hawaii walk into a nursing home in Mill Creek, Utah. The man they are looking for is 66 years old, bedridden, and barely mobile. He isn't running. He has nowhere to run. But for 48 years he didn't need to. Because for 48 years, nobody could prove a thing. His DNA had been locked in an evidence room since 1977. The biological proof of what he did to a teenage girl was preserved, sealed, and catalogued, while he moved freely across the country, living under his own name, with zero criminal record. The system had no way to touch him. Until now. The answer was always there. The technology just hadn't caught up. Dawn Momohara came into this world already carrying loss. She was born on December 28, 1960, in Honolulu, Hawaii. 6 months before she took her first breath, her father was already gone. Takeo Momohara died on May 31, 1960, in an industrial accident at a quarry in Nanakuli. He never saw her face. He never held her. He never knew her name. She grew up at 1270 Elm Street, raised by her mother Mabel and older sister Faye. By spring 1977, she was a student at President William McKinley High School at 1039 South King Street. Established in 1865, one of the oldest public schools in Hawaii. Teachers and classmates described her the same way every time. Very quiet. Very shy. She was active in the Leo Club, the Science Club, and Moonlight Memories. She showed up and did the work and never ran with the wrong crowd. Her social world revolved around friends connected to the McKinley Theater Group. Dawn was not officially a member but hoped to get involved. Among that circle were Tam Anderson, class of 1979, Kohler, who served as vice president, and Lorna Sung, class of 1977. Their ritual was to rush through lunch and spend the rest of the break in room W123, the drama classroom on the ground floor of the English building. Improv games. Kohler remembered it with a laugh. One guy could do impressions of presidents, the other could do booga booga. We thought we were a mini SNL cast. There is one detail that received little attention at the time but matters more than almost anything else in this story. Kohler told the Pinion, McKinley's school newspaper, that Dawn had mentioned a name to her in conversation. A guy named Gideon Castro. Dawn noted he lived near her house. He was outside their circle entirely. But he existed close enough to her world to be named. That detail would take 48 years to mean something. Sunday, March 20, 1977. Sometime that morning the phone rang at the Momohara home. Dawn answered. The caller was male. What was said was never established. Later that afternoon Dawn told her mother she was going to meet friends at Ala Moana Center, barely half a mile from their address on Elm Street. There was nothing unusual about it. Nothing that made Mabel reach for her daughter's arm and ask her to stay. Dawn walked out of the house. Whether she ever arrived at that shopping center was never confirmed. McKinley High School sits to the west of the Momohara home. Ala Moana Center sits to the south. No direct route between them required passing through the McKinley campus. There was no obvious reason for Dawn to be near that school that night. And yet a music festival was underway at the Neil Blaisdell Concert Hall, directly adjacent to the W building where her body would be found the next morning. One of the acts on the bill was Booga Booga, the same performers Kohler had laughed about during those lunch breaks. The concert began at 7:30 that evening. Whatever brought Dawn to that part of Honolulu, the answer has never been established. At 10:38 that night Mabel called the Honolulu Police Department to report her daughter missing. That call was the last time she heard Dawn's voice. Between 9 and 10 that same night, a man driving through the McKinley campus with his girlfriend noticed something wrong. A car sat on the grass near the English building, engine off. A man walked out from the ground floor steps toward it. Something felt off. The driver circled back. By the time he came around the car and the man were already gone, cleared out fast. He described a two-door hardtop with louvered rear windows, maroon on the bottom, white vinyl on top, possibly a 1974 or 1975 Pontiac Lemons. The man was Asian, 18 to 22 years old, 5'5" to 5'7", about 140 to 150 pounds, light tan complexion, dark wavy shoulder-length hair, light blue collared shirt, dark pants. Honolulu police released composite sketches of both. No match ever came in. Those sketches would sit on the department's cold case website for decades. Monday morning, March 21st, shortly after 7:30. A teacher entered the English building, made their way to the upper floor, and found her. Dawn was lying on her back in the hallway, partially clothed. An orange cloth was bound tightly around her neck. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers recovered her purse, her slipper, her shorts, and other items nearby. The autopsy returned one finding. Death by asphyxia due to strangulation, ruled a homicide. The medical examiner confirmed injuries consistent with sexual assault. Seminal fluid. Spermatozoa. Confirmed. The identity of the person responsible was encoded in that material. But DNA technology did not exist in 1977. Everything was sealed, cataloged, and transferred to storage, waiting for science that had not yet arrived. Susie Chun Oakland was a sophomore at McKinley that morning. "It was our first experience with a crime like that," she said. "People were afraid. In our state we take care of each other." HPD worked the case hard through spring and summer of 1977. 1 week after the murder, on March 28th, detectives sat down with two brothers. Gideon Castro, class of 1976, had graduated from McKinley, joined the United States Army Reserve, and come back to Honolulu. He told investigators he met Dawn at a school dance in late 1976 and last saw her at the McKinley Carnival in February 1977, where they spoke for about 15 minutes. Then he said something that should have made every person in that room lean forward. He told detectives he came back to campus that Monday morning because he heard a girl had died. The man whose genetic material would later be confirmed on Dawn's clothing placed himself back at the scene within hours of the body being found. His older brother William, class of 1972, said he met Dawn through Gideon and acknowledged occasional phone calls but denied any relationship. Both brothers cooperated fully. Neither was arrested. Neither was ruled out. The biological proof was in storage in a format the science of 1977 could not read. By the end of that year the case went cold. Gideon Castro walked away from that interview and lived freely for the next 48 years. Mabel waited. Faye carried her sister's memory. Tam Anderson, Kohler, and Lorna Sung scattered across the country, built careers and families, and kept talking about the girl from room W123. Castro drifted through California and across other western states, never putting down roots, never drawing attention. No criminal record. No felony convictions. Nothing that would have placed his profile in CODIS, the FBI's national DNA database launched in 1998. He was invisible to every system designed to find him. In March 2019, 42 years after the murder, Detective Michael Ogawa of the Homicide Strategic Enforcement Detail pulled the Momohara file and submitted a request to the HPD Scientific Identification Section's Forensic Biology Unit to reprocess Dawn's clothing. In May 2020, a DNA criminalist recovered the partial major genetic profile of an unidentified male from the sperm fraction of the samples. Ran it through CODIS. No match. The case passed to Detective Ko, who took over the active identification work. In September 2023, new information pointed the team back toward the Castro brothers. William had relocated to Chicago, Illinois. In November 2023, Detective Ko and the Homicide Strategic Enforcement Detail flew to Chicago, located one of William's adult children, and covertly collected a DNA sample from a discarded item. The FBI processed it. William was eliminated. But the child's profile showed a familial connection to the unidentified male, a biological proximity placing the crime scene material within the same bloodline. Someone closely related to William had been in that hallway on the night of March 20, 1977. There was only one person that could mean. Castro was in a care facility in Mill Creek, Utah. HPD worked with the FBI and Homeland Security investigations to locate Gideon's adult son and covertly obtained a genetic sample from a discarded item. The result was unambiguous. Gideon's son was a biological child of the unidentified male from the crime scene. Detectives then flew to Utah, coordinated with the Unified Police Department of Greater Salt Lake, watched Castro's movements, and collected a direct sample from something he had touched and thrown away. It went to the FBI. Then to HPD. It matched. The genetic material on Dawn's clothing, preserved since March 20, 1977, belonged to Gideon Bellamidi Castro. The same man who sat across from detectives in 1977, answered every question calmly, and walked out untouched. January 21, 2025, 7:40 in the morning Hawaii time. Officers from the Mill Creek Investigations Unit entered that care facility and went to his room. Gideon Bellamidi Castro was in his bed. No struggle. No confrontation. Just a 66-year-old man and the officers who had come to hold him accountable for what he did nearly 5 decades ago. He was charged with second-degree murder in the 1977 death of Dawn Momohara. Under Hawaii law, there is no statute of limitations on murder. Time had run out. HPD Lieutenant Dina Thoems held a press conference the following day. Tam Anderson spoke to the Pinion. "We never forgot Dawn," she said. "We were feeling happy knowing our friend was finally getting the justice she deserved." Kohler added, "I thank the police department for never giving up on Dawn." Then the system stalled. On February 26, 2025, Castro appeared by video from a hospital gurney before Commissioner Todd Olson of the 3rd District Court in Salt Lake City. Documented conditions included severe sepsis, left-side paralysis, acute respiratory failure, a history of sudden cardiac arrest, and diabetes. His attorney Marlene Mohn told the court he intended to fight the charges but agreed to extradition. Castro waived his right to challenge the process. On March 10, 2025, Honolulu Deputy Prosecutor Kelsey Guerra sent a letter to Salt Lake County District Attorney Clifford Ross. "We cannot currently proceed with prosecution of this case," she wrote, "due to recent complications involving a material witness and the state of the evidence." No elaboration. No explanation of what had changed. On March 11, Clifford Ross filed a motion to release Castro and dismiss without prejudice. Judge John Nielsen signed the order. On March 19, 2025, less than 2 months after his arrest, Gideon Bellamidi Castro stepped out of the Salt Lake County Jail. Free. Grant Okamura, who was McKinley's band teacher when Dawn was killed, said what the community was thinking. "I am disappointed they could not go to trial," he said. "But I understand their concern about entering a courtroom unprepared and having everything dismissed." As of June 2025, no new charges have been filed. The investigation is reportedly continuing. Gideon Castro remains free. The staircase is still there. The upper hallway of the W building at McKinley is still standing, still passed through by students every day who may or may not know that a 16-year-old girl named Dawn Momohara was found in that corridor and never came home. She was born December 28, 1960. Her father never lived to see her. She never graduated. She was 16, and everything that might have been was taken before it had the chance to begin. For 48 years the proof sat encoded in storage with no mechanism to attach a name to it. The technology caught up. The match was confirmed. The arrest was made. And then the system stalled in a way that nobody who had waited 48 years was prepared for. What comes next belongs to the Honolulu prosecutor's office. Whether Gideon Castro ever stands in a courtroom and faces what the record says he did. Whether Mabel's family, whether Faye, whether Tam Anderson and Kohler and Lorna Sung ever sit in that room and watch justice finally complete itself. None of it is certain. What is certain is that Dawn's name endures. Her story endures. And the people who loved her never stopped saying it. Drop a comment. Will Hawaii refile? Will Gideon Castro ever answer for what happened to Dawn Momohara? Tell us where you are watching from. Subscribe to Cairo True Crime Breakdown. Because justice does not always arrive on schedule. But we will be here every time it does.